according to Elliotte Friedman over the weekend, the Leafs have met twice as we have this conversation with Sheldon Keefe regarding a possible extension. Like, that's a bit surprising for me, but I get why that story is out there because, of course, Sheldon Keefe has 1 year remaining on his contract. What'd you make of that whole situation?
Yeah, it makes me think he's coming back. I don't think they call him and say, "Hey, we want to meet with you. Hey, we want to meet with you." I have a feeling they would start off with, "Do you want to be back or not?" And then yes, and then okay, well, what direction do you see it going? Okay, well, this, that, well, this is what we want. Are we on the same page? Yes. Okay, now we'll meet again. Second time. Now let's
Yeah.
talk term. What do you want it to look like? What do you see yourself in 5 years? And I feel like that's what's happening right now. And once that comes to an agreement and a conclusion, they'll announce that he's back for, I don't know, it'd be interesting to see the term. I hope it's not. I mean, it doesn't really matter with a coach,
Exactly.
the term.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it takes him to have 5 years plus his last year and he's on a 6 year term, fine. If they don't like him after next year, they just can him. It's MLSE. They can
Hmm.
literally load a Brinks truck up to his house and not even notice. So that's kind of irrelevant to me. But it sounds to me like he's coming back. That's what I'd put my money on for sure at this point.
Well, that's exactly it. Like, I have that in my notes right here. What does it matter? MLSC has so much money. They can give him a 15-year contract. They can whack him whenever they want. So
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense. It gives them a bit of comfort. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like, I think at the very least, the clock is starting to tick on Sheldon Keefe. But I'm right there with you, man. Like, if they've had more than one conversation, it would have been an easy decision way back when they made the Dubas decision to say, what, Sheldon Keefe, you're done. But the fact that they let it up to the GM, but the fact that also Brendan Shannon had that vote of confidence leads me to believe, and had led me to believe at the time, that Sheldon Keefe was going to stick to start at least start the year. Whether Brad Treliving wanted to admit it or not, there's always an assessment period when coming in, and the fact that he doubled down and came out during his presser when he joined the Leafs to say, "Hey, I'm not that type of guy. Just, I give the benefit of the doubt." It just told me, reading in between the lines, that Sheldon Keefe's going to come back next year.
Yeah, I think you're right. And like you said, all signs point to that. They could have canned him right away, and I do think that bought people some time. I think it bought the core
Yeah.
four time. I think it bought Sheldon Keefe time, like you said. Bringing in that new GM, now he's going to say, "Hey, let's see what we got here," and it's going to buy everyone a year for sure. And I just fear that the same goddamn thing is going to happen, that, I'll be the guy like you at the beginning of last year going, "Well, the fucking regular season doesn't mean anything. I know they're going to put up 110 points, but they're going to be scared in the playoffs and not show up and not be able to score that big goal." And I just hope it's not that. And that's kind of why I hoped for a bit of a shakeup. But again, we got a new GM. He's going to want to put his fingerprints on it. And I mean, that's about as much as we can hope for at this point in time, to think that maybe things will be different.
At the very least, it kicks the can down the road. How many examples, Rosie, have we seen that teams that are not crazy about the way they're playing, but something clicks or they make a coaching change? Like, ultimately, Craig Berube comes to mind with the St. Louis Blues. So just because we see right now that it's Sheldon Keefe and likely to be Sheldon Keefe doesn't mean he finishes next season. I think it gives them, an out. It gives them the ability to kick the can down the road and make a decision in the fall or midway through next year, that if they don't like what they see, if they see a lot of what they've seen in the past, then you make that snap decision. And I like the fact that they're putting a bit of faith in Sheldon Keefe. I think ultimately it's easy to choose the head coach and say, "Hey, you're the scapegoat. You're part of the reasons why this team didn't win." So I'd love to see what Sheldon Keefe, comes out with next season. But I'm very curious with this decision. Just more the fact the season ended. I think nobody in their wildest dreams could have expected it would go this way, where Kyle Dubas is gone and Sheldon Keefe stays.